I'm very glad to welcome Kathrin Pechlof und Robert Landfermann. Hello, guys. Hi, nice to see you. Since we tried a little bit the whole setting with the microphones and so, I figure it's a nice idea if you just start us off with some music and then we come to chat a little bit about what's going on later. Yeah, guys. Beautiful. Beautiful. We're going to wait a little second until Robert joins us here at the table because he has a little way to go to come into talking position. It was very nice, Robert. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Kathrin. I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
When you play together, obviously you know each other since quite a while, and I kind of researched a little bit the history of the Kathrin Pechlof trio. But still, there's a question. Actually, I think many people who are not so much into music will have in mind: how is it possible to play freely together like this? Because, as I understand, you didn't play a tune, or you didn't have a structure, a predefined way of music which you knew before, but you were just following each other freely. Is there something like a common ground or a language you're using where you both refer to?
Yes. I mean, first of all, thanks for having us. Pleasure to be here and inviting us, and to play with Kathrin is always a pleasure. I mean, it's a little bit difficult like this, but it's a lot of fun anyway. And talking about common ground, of course, there's a lot of language that we both know, like musical language, records we listen to, we like, certain players we love, but also our like more than 10 years now that we know each other, right, Kathrin?
Yeah. Right, exactly,
that we
10 years.
exactly 10 years. Wow. That we can like take material from. We know each other well as humans and as musicians. We have experience together, talking to each other, and that's basically what it is. We just talk to each other through the instruments. We know that there are certain topics we can touch or certain material. We even had a little motive going from a tune we play in trio, which we didn't talk about earlier. So there's a lot of stuff happening where we don't need music paper or sheet music.
And this is especially because you know each other so well. Kathrin, what do you think? Or is this just a common thing as improvisers? That's what we do.
Both. I think if you know each other very well, like we do, it's much more easy and it's going much more in the details, and you can anticipate a lot because you know each other so well. So sometimes I kind of feel what he's thinking and what he's going to do the next. But in general, with the free improvisation, I guess it's most important about listening very, very carefully and being as open and free as you can without any thoughts or it's just going into the sound. So for me, it's closing the eyes and just being into everything. And this kind of listening is very special. And this is the basic and the ground how you react on.
But would you say that there's a stylistic thing, like, because when we listen to this music, or I mean, for me it's a little different because I'm into music myself. But I think for people listening to this music, it's hard to say: is this jazz? Is this modern? Is this contemporary European? What's that supposed to be? So is there something like a stylistic anchor or base that you were both referring to?
Well, what we like to tell people when they ask this question is it's just music, and to divide it into different styles is the job of the music scientists. not our job. We enjoy if it's open and we don't have like borders or gaps to fill or whatever. For us it's great if we don't build ourselves a box which we cannot leave then.
Yeah, that makes perfectly sense to me. Kathrin, what are you saying?
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think the common ground is what we were listening all our lives, where we come from and what we experienced. And I think everything is into the music when we play this kind of music now, but it's out of this, so it's developed, it has transformed in a way. So when I play something, sometimes I remember on some pieces or some kind of music, but it's just like a second, but it's always there what we experienced our whole life. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, that makes perfect sense to me, and it makes perfect sense in the context of the Monheim Triennale, where we try to invite people from all different genres and try to connect and let's and show or make visible or hearable the connections between all those different stylistic approaches. Well, there's one thing I wanted to ask Kathrin, because obviously you came from classical training with your instrument. There's not much other choice if you start playing the harp, I guess. And then I read that you studied in Munich, and you premiered a lot of new music pieces. You worked a lot in the so-called classical field. What actually made you leave this area and try to find new ways in this more improvised context?
it was not the one single point or something. It was kind of a development. And I grew up with classical music and Bavarian folk music also.
There's still one ensemble I saw you play regularly, right, in Bavaria, folk music ensemble.
Yeah, I stopped it maybe some years ago, but yes, and it's fun. So it was not that certain point or turning point or something. It was just actually I got to know some jazz musicians and they were friends and they took me to the concerts, and so I experienced something what I didn't ever experience in classical music, and so that took my attention. This certain kind of, I don't like the word freedom in this context, but in a way it is freedom compared to the classical music where you're supposed to, you have a piece and the idea is to play it in the most perfect way in your idea of the perfect interpretation. So it's always this point where you like to come as close as possible. So that was, for me, I experienced like.
You mean as close as possible to the text in the music, right? That's
yeah, or to the idea of the perfect interpretation of the text. So, and improvising, it's kind of the opposite. So you don't have this ideal where you like to come to. So it's the way, and it's the process and the transformation, and so it works in a very different way. And when I experienced this the first time, it was kind of a new world for me, and I was really attracted. And so slowly I went from the one world to the other.
Do you still play written music from time to time?
Yeah, at home.
No, not in public.
No, I stopped it a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, interesting to me is always this notion of freedom. As you already said, it's a kind of a term which is hard to use, but there's not so many good words in this context. And I was thinking about like composition and improvisation. And Robert, as you are not only a great improviser, you're a composer and you write incredible music, and you're going to write a big piece for the Triennale. I wonder, when you incorporate improvisation in your composition, how is that balanced between the freedom you want to give to the players and the role of the composer who wants to kind of define a structure or a sound or a certain idea?
Well, it's pretty complicated. I think the players I choose for my ensembles, or for example for Renus, it's a 8-piece group. I have them in mind because I chose the players not from their instruments, but from their personalities. So I have them in mind, and I try to write something which suits every character in the band. And also, I'm just trying to give a shape, an idea of what could happen. And I know that the more freedom I give the players, the more exciting in the moment, the more interaction there will be, and that's what I love about the music. So if I set certain strict rules, the outcome will almost ever be the same. The music will sound the same every time we play it. So I like the idea of being in the moment and changing tunes around. And
yeah, that's interesting. We had Lakeisha Benjamin here in this live stream 2 weeks ago, and she said kind of the same thing, because she also has this big community of musical friends she invites for her projects for her new Pursuance record, she has a great number of players from 3 generations, but also in the other projects she has this. And she also says she chooses people and she writes for these people. That's interesting. But then also for Rhinos, for the project you are going to premiere at the Monheim Triennale, you kind of choose a non-musical topic. So you want to make a homage to your birth city or town. So that's another thing that comes in there, which is probably pretty hard to handle all these things, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Rhenos obviously is the Latin word for the river, Rhine, where I grew up next to, in the little town of Oberwinter, which is a small village close to Remagen or Bonn, the former capital. And now I live in Cologne. Before that, I went to the school Nonnenwert, which is actually on an island in the river. So I've been connected to this my whole life, to this stream of life, this river. And Monheim is also next to the river, so it makes perfectly sense.
Perfectly.
In a way, I'm moving north, coming from the south. It's just maybe 100 kilometers all in all, but slowly I'm moving.
But how do you? Is there any? I mean, probably you did a lot of writing already because we thought we would have the festival today this year. I wonder how you put these ideas inside the music without being descriptive or playing like the Moldau or something like this. There must be, I don't know, there must be certain ways or certain ideas you have to manage that.
It's maybe a little bit too hard to explain, but
yeah, probably
it's not a programmatic program. It's not like there you can hear the noises of the river or something.
Yeah.
It's more like the flow of ideas or the shape of a river or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the flow definitely makes already a perfect thing to incorporate in music easily because it's a very musical term. So Kathrin, you're composing too, and I had the pleasure to listen a lot to your recent record, Towards the Unknown. You play with Robert and Christian Weidner. Beautiful record. And I actually had the feeling that you compose a lot starting from the harp. So all the music, I had the feeling has these sparse sounds that suit your instrument. So is that also giving yourself a perfect environment to play in, to work and to improvise in?
That's interesting that you heard it like this, because it's not. I don't compose on the harp, because the harp has a certain. It's harmonically not that flexible, so I don't want to go so deep in it, but it's. If I would compose on the harp, it would would make a lot of limits. So that's why I don't compose on the harp, and then I retransfer. But I have the sound of the trio in mind, and actually this trio is the perfect surrounding for the harp, and I think the three of us created the sound of the trio over the years, and because we are improvising so much, all together we extend this sound and our possibilities all the time, constantly. And so I can't tell if I have this trio sound in mind or the trio makes this music sounding like this.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe it's both.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it doesn't. Maybe this whole question doesn't make sense. It's just that when I heard the music, I had this feeling of flow again, as Robert already said about the Rhinos, and there a lot of horizontal movements. So not so much vertical movements like you would do on the piano, like playing one chord after the other, but more like a flowing thing, one sound at the time, and things like this.
Yeah. What I like about this composing and improvising. So actually, improvising is composing in real time, and I'm interested to explore the between of it. So
you mean between the improvising and composing?
Yeah, between improvising and composing. And so it's not that I write certain notes and they have to be played exactly, or it's completely free. So there are a lot of ways to shape the music, or shape the structure, or shape the tonal material, or shape every parameter of music. And if you shape only a few of them, you have a lot of freedom, and at the same time you have a kind of limitation. And so this is what I mean in between, or like a synthesis or something. So, and I think what we are doing in this trio is exploring that. Of course, there are certain parts which are really written out, and certain parts are really free. But what's interesting is this in between for me.
Well, I guess, Robert, that you probably agree with that. I heard this also, your recording with Brief, with this quintet, and I had the same impression. Like you give some shapes, but in a way, it's kind of the band trying to get out of this, but still staying in. So it's not a fight. Fight would be the wrong word, because it's not aggressive in no way. But this was playing with the rules. I had a very strong impression of that, especially in that record.
Yeah, exactly. It's a discourse. It's a discussion about a topic. Yeah, and it's the same with the new band now, Renus. It's like 8 people. Most of them have never played together, and we as a group have never even met once. So I like to lay a topic on the table and okay, let's get on with it. Like, let's discuss it. Let's take it apart. Let's put it back together in another way. Let's see what comes out in the end.
Just one more thing, because I see that the time is running. Marco said last week in our discussion that he uses sonification, like using material which is non-musical, like data, transferring it into sound, also in order to not impose his will as a composer to the piece. Is that something you might find a similarity in this process of working?
Yeah, you could transfer the non-musical components which he uses to the players, like to human beings.
Yeah,
maybe.
So meaning you throw something on the table and you see what comes out of it, but you take your own desire to shape things as a composer. You take this back a little bit.
Yeah. You have to be very. You have to put your ego aside as a composer. You compose something and you have like a perfect thing in mind, and then you put it out there and it's completely going somewhere else, and it has to be okay for you. You have to learn to let go.
And probably you learn this also because both of you are not only working as band leaders, but you work as sidewoman and sidemen. So you learn this also playing with others and appreciating the freedom you're getting by other band leaders as an interpreter of their music, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like being taken very seriously. If somebody gives you freedom, hey, play with this little motive, but do your thing with it. I feel very much more taken seriously than play exactly the music as it's written there. Then I think, okay, everybody can do it. You don't need me, or you don't need this guy or that guy. Can be anybody,
Yeah, I perfectly understand. Well, there's so many more things I would like to discuss. But time is running out, as I said, and I would so much love to hear a little bit more music from the two of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this evening. While Robert is setting up, I want to say something about whoever switched on the live stream a little early, you heard some music, and I forgot to mention that before. This was New Atlantis from the new CD of Philipp Sollmann, aka DJ Eftemin. Beautiful CD, and Philipp is also going to be part of our roster at the Monheim Triennale 2021. So let's hear another piece of Kathrin and Robert. Yeah. Thank you so much. About the ending, that would be also something we could talk a lot, I think. Thank you so much, Kathrin. Thank you, Robert. I wish you all the best. Stay healthy, and I hope to see you very soon and talk a little more and hear a little more of your music. All the best to Berlin. All the best to Cologne. Bye, bye.
Bye.
Vielen Dank, liebe Leute, fürs Zuhören. Vielen Dank fürs Dabeisein.